It's unfortunate that if your daily commute is inside the National Capital Region of the Philippines, the word hybrid takes on a whole new meaning. I'm not discounting the advantages. I'm just saying there's more to it than zero coding, like the space of a seven-seater and a fuel-efficient engine. Now, if you package and price it well enough, like the Suzuki XL7 hybrid, you could be looking at your next, if not your first, family vehicle. Our AutoDeal app, available on iOS and Android, can help you find the best car at the best price. And a quick look will tell you that the Suzuki XL7 hybrid comes in at 1,252,000 Philippine pesos. Chuck in another 10,000 Philippine pesos for the two-tone orange. Now, the XL7 is to the Ertiga what the Cross is to the Expander. You get me? Same base, but better dressed. A skid plate up front and cladding on the fenders do well to lend it a more rugged look. The wheel pattern and the updated grille does well to communicate a better understanding of life, outside the city. Similar body lines to the Ertiga stretch to the rear of the XL7, but roof rails, a skid plate at back, and a different take on the rear lamps set them really quite apart. Though they sit on the same chassis, the XL7 has larger wheels at 16 and sits on 20 millimeters more of ground clearance at 200. At its heart is a 1.5-liter four-cylinder gasoline engine paired with a mild hybrid system that produces 103 horsepower and 138 newton-meters of torque, mated to a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now, in the city, with the rains and all, we were able to do 10.6 kilometers per liter, which is pretty good considering that the start-stop function was turned off. I'm not a big fan of it. If you do turn it off, you're looking at maybe about a kilometer and a half, even more. On the highway, because you're limited to 4 gears, we expected a bit more, but it was quite decent at 17.6 kilometers per liter. Not bad. A main attribute of a 7-seater is cargo space, and the XL7 actually does pretty well in that department. Oh, you can't. I'll turn the car around. With the third row in play, you're looking at about 153 liters of space with change, because you can lift the bottom and have even more space down there, and this is actually quite sturdy. When you fold the third row, that will obviously more than double. Lots of space there. And then when you fold the second row, you're looking at over 900 liters of space, which is great too, because the lip is flat and the seats fold flush all the way too. So when you load heavier items, you can slide it in as slow as you want, deeper and deeper and deeper into the car. No, Earl. No, just one review, Earl. Just one. Without you smiling behind the camera, you're a sick boy. The third row for passengers is more than decent, really, even for people such as my size. I know I'm small, but still, this is actually pretty darn good. This space feels like it's much more comfortable than even in my own Montero, where your legs are kind of closer to your chest. They've achieved this by raising the seats ever so much more. They can do that because the roof is actually much higher. So the space here for the third row passengers, so long as the second row passengers aren't swapping with the amount of leg space that they get, you're actually going to be pretty okay here. The air vents are on top, so it will definitely hit the third row. And as a bonus, you've got bottle holders here on either side. There is also a 12-volt socket available for the third row passengers. Now, while in the second row, if you are fair to those in the third row, you still have a decent amount of leg room in front of you. Of course, the headroom is actually pretty darn good. Look at that. It's yes, I know I'm short. That is my normal driving position, and even while being fair for those in the back, I can still go ahead and cross my legs. Although if Jack were here, he might have an issue, which is pretty cool, because you can just slide back a little bit more, and then your space becomes redonkulous. I didn't realize just exactly how big that was. The space here is of great value because that you have boatloads of, because there isn't much anything else. There is a very large window and a large door, which means that seniors will have an easier time getting in and out of the automobile. But as for toys, there really isn't much. You do have bottle holders on either side. You do have a center armrest without any cup holders. And you do have a 12-volt socket found in the center. But folks, that is about it, because really what they put a premium on is the space. I also have to make mention about the air vents that we talked about earlier. These guys are, this blower here is very, very strong, that it only took 15 minutes to cool this entire car off after I had parked it under the sun the entire afternoon. Now, I know that may sound like an eternity and a half, but consider that this is the Philippines and we live that close to the sun. Earl and I were recently on a media drive with the XL7 with other Philippine media people as well, and we came to a very quick conclusion when it came to the interior, which is that for its price, yes, for the most part it is durable plastics that are easy to clean, but for its price, it's a car that we wouldn't have any issues immediately jumping into.
Wait, are you allowed to do that?
I don't know, man, I'll just say it was you. Large analog displays that are easy to read, a multifunctional steering wheel with a flat bottom, a handsome tiered dash above straightforward air controls, a 12-volt socket and inputs underneath, followed by cup holders with vents to keep drinks cool, which is actually pretty cool. The infotainment is a large 10-inch touchscreen that doubles as your reverse monitor, which is equipped with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. I mean, it's not exactly the bee's knees in here, but it's also not Franklin's no frills. I do, however, have a qualm. Now, if I were to say that this could use some vanity mirrors and a light, then I would be nitpicking. But this is legit. See, at over 1.2 million Philippine pesos, I would have expected speed-sensing door locks. And I know you would too. Before we go on a drive, do consider subscribing to our channel because we create all these videos just for you. And if it's going to take me hurting Earl for you to subscribe to our channel, I will.
What? No! No!
Con gusto y gana. Ah! Hey, thanks, Earl. The last time we had rugged MPVs, we had a comparo with a very scientific load the car with 4 people while it has the equal amount of fuel in each and every single one, floor it going uphill from poste to poste, however long that may be, test with the dog, which was bested by the Stargazer X at a hair over 13 seconds. Well, we don't have the people and we don't have the dog, but we'd be remiss if we didn't at least try. Earl, you ready? 3, 2, 1, let's go! That's 1 poste, 2 postes, 3 postes, 4 postes. Earl coming out on poste number 5. 5.
12 seconds and 55.
12.55. Well, we're also very, very light.
And no dog.
And no dog. Wow, your dog's really heavy.
He's a chunky boy.
He's a chonky. You do sit quite high inside this car. It's, to be honest with you, it's something that I had to get used to because I prefer to sit much closer to the ground. Yes, even with my diminutive size. But what that does is that it gives you a really clear view of the road, especially with this very massive windshield. And also, what it does is that it maximizes the space of the entire cabin by making you sit up high. Because the ceiling is so high, it can do that all the way up to the 3rd row, which is actually pretty cool. And also, I must say that so long as you don't ring the engine, it's actually quite quiet in here. The XL7 Hybrid is very much an MPV, but it's based on the Swift. So it actually can be quite light on its feet. You can't exactly get racy with it, but coupled with the light steering, it's actually quite a fun car to drive. The 4-speed automatic transmission works just fine. No stretches, no rubber bands, no hiccups like you might feel in other transmissions. But because it's a 4-speed, you have to limit yourself to very, very well-behaved speeds if you want to maximize fuel efficiency. Unofficially, on that media drive that I spoke about, Earl and I were able to cover 70 kilometers just using 1.8 liters of fuel. Unofficially. And don't ask me how we did it. All I can tell you is I'm glad that most of us wore deodorant that day. Well, again, most of us.
There there was no dog.
The hybrid system works in a manner that when the car is already rolling. So let's say, for example, the poste-to-poste test that we just did, what it does there, it kicks in a little bit in the mid-range. So it's a little peppier, nippier than your average XL7. So it's got a little bit of a boost there. And then obviously it will work better for fuel efficiency sakes. But again, yes, to address the elephant in the room, it is not a hybrid system enough that it can propel itself on pure electric power or just the motor inside. So that's why it doesn't fall into the category of being exempt from coding inside Metro Manila. But there are plenty benefits to it nonetheless. It does have Manila drawbacks in the sense that it doesn't have speed sensing door locks and it isn't exempt from coding. But I guess it boils down to the question that, would I drive this vehicle? Would I purchase this vehicle if I were thinking about my family? And the answer is that, yeah, it ticks almost all the boxes that I need, including price. No car is perfect. And no, I'm not making any excuses for the XL7 hybrid. I will defend it, however, to say that it's still most definitely a hybrid. It just doesn't meet NCR standards, if you know what I mean. The car, however, does what is expected to do, which is to carry 7 people quietly, safely, handsomely, and be as fuel efficient as possible when given the opportunity.